All right, Krystal, what are you taking a look at?
Well, guys, do you remember this?
The only way we can deal with corporate greed in America is union power. That's a fact. You're the only ones that keep the barbarians on the other side of the gate, man. You're the only ones. So, folks, I promise you, the Fair Labor Standards Act passed way back in Roosevelt's day didn't say we're allowed to have unions. It said the government should promote unions. I promise you, I will be the most pro-union president you have ever seen. I guarantee you a seat at the table.
The government should promote unions. That, of course, was Joe Biden, and that was on the eve of Election Day in Beaver County, Pennsylvania. Fun fact, I used to live right next door, neighboring East Liverpool, Ohio. So after launching his campaign at a Pittsburgh firefighters union hall, Biden closed his campaign by promising to be the most pro-union president in history, by promising that he would not only allow workers to unionize, but would actively promote unionization. Now, as president, he's also made clear he sees the decline of unions as a critical threat to America, saying that the trend has, quote, weakened our democracy. Those are pretty strong words. Yet here we are, the beginning of a major strike wave with workers from coast to coast. We're talking bus drivers and nurses and factory workers alike, all authorizing strikes, some rejecting contracts, some hitting the picket lines. And what has the self-proclaimed most pro-union president in history had to say about it? Pretty close to nothing at all. His press secretary delivered the company line that they would have nothing to say about any of the ongoing strikes, while noting generally that Biden is pro-union.
You've got about 10,000 John Deere workers on strike, a number of other strikes going on. How concerned are you about the impact this might have on the economy or the supply chain? And do you have any plans to intervene?
We, of course, are not going to speak to any individual ongoing potential individual labor actions, as you know, as a standard. But I will note that the president and the vice president often say, and that this is the most pro-union administration in history, and they will continue to govern and lead with that in mind.
You got to love how that question was framed, too, about what the strike would do to the supply chain, not about what it might mean for the workers, for example. Then we were graced with a few utterances from Mr. Most Pro-Union President in history himself. He said that his message to those striking workers is that they have a right to strike and they have a right to demand higher wages, and the companies they're striking on are doing very well. I'm not going to get into the negotiation, but my message is if you think that's what you need, then you should do it. Guys, let's just be honest. This is extremely weak. A tectonic shift is happening right now in relations between labor and management. You see it in the strikes, you see it in the Great Resignation, you see it in skyrocketing approval ratings for unions. And Biden, he is largely missing in action. He hasn't said a word about other strikes happening at Kellogg's and other workplaces. Some of the workers who are risking their livelihoods here, they've noticed his absence from the fight. Carrie Williams, president of BCTGM Local 374G, told Politico, quote, "At the end of the day, Kellogg's is an iconic American manufacturer food-wise. We were essential workers, and I would hope the Biden administration would put something out there to encourage the Kellogg management to get back to the negotiating table." Look, let me be totally clear. Biden, of course, has been way better on labor than Trump. It's not even close. Most critically, he staffed the National Labor Relations Board with people who actually believe in the mission of that body instead of union-busting lawyers. But as Jonah Furman and Gabriel Winant point out in a recent article, he's also weakened labor's hand significantly by allowing a lot of key pandemic supports to expire. Workers out on strike, they lose their employer-sponsored health insurance. So those COBRA subsidies that we did have, those have expired. They would have been rather useful. Talk of the PRO Act, of course, initially pitched as an integral part of the Build Back Better plan. That has completely vanished from public debate. And as I detailed earlier, Biden has stuck to a legalistic dodge when asked about these strikes, failing to directly advocate for the workers. This power of the bully pulpit is also not to be underestimated. Media coverage of Striketober has been sorely lacking. Biden forcefully weighing in would be controversial, and it would force the press to actually pay attention. That would put pressure on all of the companies involved, not to mention help inform the American people about what's going on. We are truly at a pivot point in terms of the labor movement and in terms of the fate of the American worker. In fact, at least some of the workers out on strike right now, they see their struggle in the broader context of an existential battle for the middle class. After all, Rising inequality and falling union density, those things go hand in hand. You can see it in this chart. It's a direct relationship. As unions decline, wealth concentration accelerates. It is a clear as day correlation. And of course, it makes perfect sense. When more workers are unionized, unions have more power. When unions have more power, they're able to win better deals for their members. And when their members win better deals, it lifts wages and conditions even for non-union workers. It is no accident that as union density has declined in America, wages have stagnated and corporate profits have soared. There is a moment here to be seized. One of the most hopeful moments that I frankly have seen in a long while in American political life. A sea change in how workers view their jobs and how they view their bosses. A tight labor market that is giving workers a little bit of leverage to play with. What's more, public opinion is dramatically on the side of the workers, who we claimed as essential, but then were treated as disposable. Why not President Biden show up at a picket line? Why not dramatically join the right side of the class war for once? Why not force a vote on the PRO Act and make every anti-union legislator go on the record as being for or against worker power? Biden said in that Beaver County campaign speech I played that the only way to deal with corporate greed in America is through union power. So Joe Biden doesn't have to look back to FDR or anyone else to know what his role should be right now. He only needs to live up to his own promises. And Sagar, obviously this is a bit of wishful thinking, but I just don't think we can let go of the fact that there is a moment right here that if someone... Hey guys, thanks so much for watching.
That's right. Just as a reminder, you can become a premium subscriber today. Watch the full show completely uncut, our reactions to each other's monologues. You get to listen to it. You get to ask us questions, all that good stuff. Link is right there in the description or at breakingpoints.com.
Best of all, great way to say screw you to the mainstream media.